All right, peace, peace, peace. Be back once again. Dr. Alim El-Bey is going to be getting into some decoding, metaphysical decoding, esoteric decoding of the Creed versus Draco. That's the new movie that just came out, which is Creed 2. And of course, we're going to be talking about Creed 1. So, we're going to get all of it together as well as also Rocky 4. So, we're going to get into all of that and just see how all of this ties in. All right, because it was 33 years ago, specifically because it was 1985 when the Rocky movie came out. All right, and so that particular Rocky movie with Apollo Creed getting killed, dying in the boxing ring because of the Russian Ivan Draco. So we're gonna get into that information. So just bear with us as we pull up the screen. You know how we do. It's time to share the screen. All right. So check it out. All right, so when we think about Apollo, we have to look at the Greek terminology and see where it stems from. But Apollo, as you see, is Attic. Attic, Attic, is also Apollo. Keep the word Attic in mind. It's also Ionic, all right? And Homeric, Greek, right? Apollyon is one of the most important and complex of the Olympian deities in classical Greek and Roman religion and Greek and Roman mythology. So the national divinity of the Greeks, you have Apollo that's been variously recognized as a god of music, truth, prophecy, healing, the sun, and light, play, poetry, and more. Right? Apollo is the son of Zeus and Leto and his twin sister, all right, the chastity huntress Artemis. So seen as the most beautiful god and the ideal of the curls, a beardless athletic youth. Apollo is considered to be the most Greek of all gods. And how can it be really the Greek of most all gods when really Apollo is known in Greek influence as the Etruscan mythology as Apollo. All right, so this comes from the ancient teaching of the Etruscans, which were the so-called Black Romans. All right, so Apollo or Apollo is another name within the Etruscan mythology, and this is how the Greeks received that information. All right, these are the Roman blacks, Moors. All right, so we find so that's what Apollo mean, Attic. Keep Attic in mind. And then we go to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, 1828. And it talks about, well, since 1828, we go to creed. And creed means, all right, Middle English, cred, and from Old English, creda, and from Latin, credo, as in credo mortuae, right? First word of the apostles and Nicene creeds. And you had the creed, all right, or the creera, all right, depends on how you say it, to believe, trust, entrust, akin to the old Irish Cretan, he believed, all right, the Sanskrit, Sarad, Dahata, or Dahati, all right. So we go to the supreme alphabets of the nation of gods and earth, formerly known as the Five Percenters, and basically is a system of interpreting texts and finding deeper meanings in the original 120 questions written by Elijah Muhammad and Master Muhammad by assigning actual meaning to the letters of the Roman alphabet. It was developed by Clarence 13X after splitting from the Nation of Islam, and after which he developed his supreme understanding. So A is Allah, the Asiatic black man. Asia is the body. Once again, Asia is the body. So when we say that we Asiatic, we saying that we talking about the body, and Attic is the mind. So Asia and Attic, hence Asiatic, is the body and mind. Black is the dominant force, talking about melanin. Man is the higher intelligence, a backronym for arm, leg, arm, supreme head, or arm, leg, arm, head, the fall of the universe, all in all. Right? Now, it's one of the most legendary rematches in the history of cinema. And what we find is that basically it's the David versus Goliath face-off in 1985. This was the Rocky IV, where Rocky Balboa pitted against Ivan Drago, the Russian boxer who killed his friend Apollo Creed in the ring. If he dies, he dies. Yes, that one. All right. 30 years after Sylvester Stallone and Dolph Lundgren and Carl Weathers starred in the fourth top-ranking Rocky movie, and the saga continues with Creed. Now, it's actually 33 years, and of course, we know that 33 is a Freemasonic number, and so it took 33 years for the mantle to be passed from the death of Apollo Creed to his son Adonis Creed, known as Donnie. All right, 33 years. That's a Masonic code there. We know that at the 33rd level or 33rd degree within Freemasonry is known as the Sovereign Grand Commander or Sovereign Inspector General. All right, then you become the Sovereign Grand Commander. We know that 33 is an honorary degree, you know, so this was an actual honor. However, there were some things that you have to look at here, right? In the Hellenistic times, especially during the 5th century BC, as Apollo Helios, he became identified among the Greeks with Helios, a Titan god of the sun. In the Latin text, however, there was no conflation of Apollo with Sol, S-O-L, S-U-S-O-U-L, all right, among the classical Latin poets until the 1st century AD. Apollo and Helios, Sol, remained separate beings in literature, literary and mythological texts until the 5th century CE. Now, who would Apollo equal in the ancient Kemetic philosophy? All right, well, that's Horus. Horus was later identified by the Greeks with Apollo. This is not just Horus, the younger or the child, Hippocrates, all right, or Haru Kropopop, all right. That's not him. This is Heru the elder, Heru right? Heru all right. So Heru is actually Osiris, known as Osaru. That's who Apollo equals. All right. So it says Horus was later identified by the Greeks with Apollo, in the town of Edfu was called Apollinopolis, which means Apollo's town, during the Greco-Roman period. Now, we're talking about the number 33, and we know that 3 is the magic number. All right. When we was all kids, we know that on Saturday cartoons, it was 3 is the magic number. And yes, it is. It's the magic number. All right. Everybody remember that shit. All right. At least coming up in the 70s, 80s, even early 90s. Right? But 3 is the magic number. Even De La Soul had a song called 3 Feet High and Rising, and on it had 3 is the number. All right, so 3 is the first odd numbered prime number, which gives it power to the indivisibility. It forms the trinity of magical numbers along with 1 and 2. Right? 1 is the singularity, the ordinance, primal beginnings of the entire universe, and 2 is the first prime number, and the only even prime number means that it cannot be divided any further, which leads to the uniqueness and the inseparability of 2. The magic of 3 is due to the fact that 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, till 11. All right. Almost all of the numbers are prime numbers as well, with the exception of 9 being the cubic prime number. Due to the cube function of the number 3, the hyperbolic nature of the number 9, it makes it exponentially more magical. So, according to what's his name? According to he says that if you want to know frequencies, vibrations, that you must know the numbers 3, 6, and 9. That's Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla said that you must know the numbers 3, 6, and 9 if you're talking about magic. What is the most magical thing about this? It boils down to the art of magic itself. Magic is an illusion fabricated by the magician. It's only magic if you believe that something is magical in the first place. Right? And that's the mind. The mind is the magic wand. And remember, attic, what does attic mean? Once again, attic means mind. The attic. All right? The attic. All right, now you go to the Egyptian myths and mysteries, the evolution of the human organisms up to the departure of the moon. This is by Rudolf Steiner. He talks about the evolutionary events in the human organism up to the departure of the moon. Now, Osiris and Isis are builders of the upper human form. Right, this is from September the 9th, 1908. He talks about the spinal column. And Osiris works upon the spine. This is why Osiris is called, his symbol, the Djid, is known as the backbone of Osiris. The Greeks experienced this also, and as they become acquainted with the Egyptian mysteries, they recognize that Osiris was the same as the god whom they called Apollo. See, just what we were talking about. Heru the elder. They said that the Egyptian Osiris was Apollo, and that like Osiris, Apollo worked with the nerves so as to achieve a soul life within man. Now is a simple way. Let us try to view this formation. Let us think of the brain. Remember, the attic is the mind, as it may be sketched. This continues itself into the spine, and there the 28 arms of Osiris entered in. Now those 28 symbolizes the 28 moon phases. You know, on the 28th day, the woman, or the 28 days within the moon, she has her menses. All right. Every 28 days, the seed atom is released from the brain and travels down into the solar plexus, which is the manger, down into near the 8 dividing cells of mitosis, where the Kundalini is, and the Kundalini is supposed to raise up, to resurrect. All right, this is the Jesus aspect. We'll be getting to that in a second. So what we find is that there Osiris with his 28 hands plays upon the spine as upon a lyre, right? A lyre is similar to a guitar, all right? The Greeks have a significant image for this, the lyre of Apollo, which needs only think of it as transpose. The lyre is the brain. See, now we get to it. The lyre is the brain. The nerves are the strings on which the hands of Apollo play. Apollo plays on the cosmic lyre, on the mighty works of art that the cosmos have formed, and they cause to resound in man the tones that compose by soul life. All right. From the Eleusinians initiation, this was what the Egyptians has given in their pictures. Right. So the Egyptians, we know that they had that first, and then you go to the Occult Anatomy of Man by Manly P. Hall. And he says the entire system of the anatomical myths from the heaven world of the ancients, the dome temple of the top of the mountain was the skull with its divine content. Remember, Jesus was crucified on Mount Golgotha, all right? Mount Calvary, the place of the skull. This is the home of the gods in man. It is termed up because it occupies the northern end of the human spine. The temple of the gods was ruled The Earth is said to be at the North Pole, which also, by the way, is the home of Santa Claus, because the North Pole represents the positive end of the spinal column at the planetary Lord. All right, Santa Claus coming down the chimney with his sprigs of evergreen, the Christmas tree, at the season of the year, right, when nature is dead, has a fine Masonic interpretation for those who wish to study it. The same is true of the manna that descends to feed the children of Israel in the wilderness. For this manna is the substance which comes down the spine from the brain. This is prana. The Hindu symbolizes the spine as the stem of the sacred lotus. Therefore, the skull and contents are symbolized by the flower. Hence the reason you have the 1,000 petals at the crown chakra. All right. The spinal column is Jacob's ladder. All right. The Jid, the backbone of Osiris, which gives you the ability to become the Jedi, as in Star Wars, connects heavens and earth, while the 33rd segment, since Jesus died at the age of 33, the 33 degrees of Freemasonry, or the degrees of Masonry and the number of years of the life of Jesus. Upon this segment, the candidate ascends into consciousness to reach the temple of initiation located at the top of the mountain. It is in this dome room with a hole in the floor. Right, that's the foreman, right, or four amen, right, magnesium, right, that the great mystery initiation are given. The Himalayan mountains rise above the earth, representing the shoulders and the upper half of the body. All right. They are the highest mountains of the world. That's what they are, the highest mountains of the world. All right. So they are the highest mountains of the world. Somewhere upon this summit stands the temple, resting like the heavens of the Greeks upon the shoulders of Atlas. Remember, Atlas had the world upon his shoulders. And it's right there at where the last vertebrae enters into the brain, the skull area. All right. It is interesting. It's called the axis. It is interesting to note that the atlas is the very vertebrae of the human skull, which the condyle of the skull rests. There it is. In the brain, there are a number of caves, ventricles, and folds. And in them, according to the Eastern legends, lives the wise men, the yogis, and hermits. This is the caves of the yogis. Now, Jesus was born in a manger, but it was in a cave, according to the Apocrypha, right? And this is one of the three wise men. The highest of the three wise men is known as the pineal gland, which looks very similar to the pineal gland, which is the head of the penis. Now, Jacob wrestled with God, Genesis 32:30. Then Jacob asked him and said, "Please tell me what's your name." But he said, "What is it that you ask my name?" And he blessed him there. All right, this is when he got hit in the thigh and he got the name Israel, changed from Jacob, which means supplanter, to Israel, to ascend to God. So this lower nature energy, sexual energy, was raised up and transformed into love, unconditional love, in the pineal gland. So Jacob named the place Peniel, and he is saying, "I have seen God face to face, yet my life has been preserved." Now the sun rose upon him as it crossed over Peniel, and he was limped on his thigh. The limping on his thigh, talking about his penis, went limp after the energy rose up. All right, this is what this is talking about. This is what these two correlate to. The pineal gland is the all-seeing eye, is the third eye, or the spiritual eye, and it's the gland located within the center of the human brain called the pineal gland. And this gland is oftentimes referred to as the seat of the soul. Rene Descartes speaks of that. All right, that this gland is oftentimes called the seat of the soul and will remain dormant until the soul reaches a certain vibratory spiritual level. All right, and the only way it does that is by the resurrection of Kundalini. This is God or Jesus ascending up to his Father who art in heaven. Once this is obtained, the gland is activated by the light of the higher self, signaling the divine energies from the Kundalini root chakra to raise activating the human chakra system, and the physical being and the spiritual being becomes one, obtaining a state of enlightenment, which the soul is now able to perceive the higher dimensions. The caduceus, the medical sign for health, is that science as you see here. And for those that can raise Kundalini, all right, you get the perfect matrimony by Samuel on War. All right. It says that the 7 most important glands of the human organism constitute the 7 laboratories controlled by the law of the triangle. Remember 3 once again. Each of these glands has an exponent in a chakra of the organism. Each one of the 7 chakras is formed or found later in intimate correlation with the 7 churches of the spinal medulla. Right? The 7 churches of the dorsal spine controls the 7 chakras of the great sympathetic nervous system, and the 7 churches become intensely active with the ascent. This is the ascending up, the ascension of the Kundalini along the medulla canal. So see, when people talk about UFOs and they going to ascend up on UFOs, this is the real ascension here, is the Kundalini ascending up along the medulla canal. And the Kundalini dwells in the electrons. All right. The sages meditate on it, devotees adore it, and its home where the perfect matrimony reigns, and it works with practically. All right. Now, the perfect matrimony is the 7 churches are within the microcosm, within the macrocosm. The 7 churches of the spinal medulla are united to the 7 chakras and plexus of the grand sympathetic nervous system by means of very fine nerves. The 7 churches are similar to the lotus flowers, which are suspended from the famous Nadi Shitara. Right? The canal of Sushumna is within the medulla canal, and the canal of Nadi Shitara is within this canal of Sushumna. The 7 beautiful and divine churches are separate, are suspended from this precious medulla canal. This is from the Aquarian message. Now, who are the masters of this? Well, the serpent race are the Cushites, who call themselves Apis, or Ethiopians, meaning the nation of the serpents, from the Greek word ethos, for nation, people, or Apis as Apis. All right, and evolves to Ethiopians. The nation of the Apis were the nation of moderate Somalia and Ethiopia, and it was the Cushites, and was called Ophir by the Greeks. Apis was the Greek and snake, serpent in Greek, and the snake god they worshiped. See, this was Kundalini. See, here is the flying serpent. This is the dragon that becomes within China, right? This is the same dragon that you see here at the crown, right? Which is the cobra, right? So we find that Creed, his name was Adonis. But Adonis comes from the Hebrew word Adonai or Adoni, all right? And Adonai is the plural of Adon, meaning Lord, 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 Master, and Owner. The word Adon derived from the Ugaritic word meaning Lord, Lord, or Father. In the Tanakh, the word Adon can refer to men, angels, as well as the Lord God of Israel. It's Exodus 34:23. God is called the Lord of Lords, Deuteronomy 10:17. And Psalms 8:1 mentions God as the Tetragrammaton, Hehi Vahi, our Lord. Right? So Adonai or Adonis, right, means master, Lord, Lord. Right? And that was his name, Adonis Creed. Right? That was his name. Your legacy is more than a name. Creed. Right? So when we look at creed, remember we showed you that creed symbolizes your belief, right? Your belief, your trust, all right, and what you are akin to. All right. So he was kin, of course, to his father, Apollo. He was the son, right? And so we find that when you go to the Gnostic warrior, the home of the Gnostic warrior, you find that similar names that means the same thing as Adonai or Adonai, you will find under such spellings as God, Hod, God, Goth, Garten, Wodan, Woden, and who? Odin. Odin, the father of Thor. God Odin. Eden, Edon. All right. Ed, Waden, Wednesday, Adin, Adon, Aten, or Aten. Godin, Dan, Titus, Danius, Danius, Eanus, Adonis. You see? So Adonis is the same as Odin, which is the same as Adon, Adonai, and Aten, the Egyptian. Okay? It goes down into Poseidon, Kot, Kata, Koda, Kude, Gad, or Gad El, Gad, Ad, Adan, Kut, or Kush, Goth, Eth, Eighth, Guth, God, Godik, Gudan, Goadan, Atim, Ota, Ovan, On, which is Ra, all right, Od, Wada, Gutama, all right, Gautama, that's Buddha. All right, Pago, Ba, Bud, Bud, Buddha, Buddha, Budhu, Buddha, Bud, Budin, Boata, all right, Puta, Put, as in Puta, all right, remember that Puta, Pot, Fo, Fu, Fohe. Today in the occult and in Masonry, the most common use is under the Hebrew spelling of Adonai, which is the Masonic lodges. There is always a Grand Adonai, aka Grand Master, presiding over the lodges or the lodge activities. Right. So the most important survival document on the new religion is the Aten hymns, which was inscribed in several versions in the Temple of Akhenaten. Right. Like some other hymns of the period, the text focus on the world of nature and the God's benefit, right, provisions for it. The hymns open with the rising of the sun, and it says, "Man has slept like dead." Now, this is where you get that sleep is the sister to death, or the sleep is the cousin to death. Now they lift their arms and praise. Birds fly, fish leap, plants bloom, and work begins. Adon creates the sun in the mother's womb, right? The seed in man, and has generated all life. He has distinguished the races, their nature, tongues, and skin, and fulfilled the needs of all. Aten made the Nile in the earth in Egypt and reigned like a heavenly Nile in foreign countries. He has a million forms according to the time of day, and from what he is seen, yet he is always the same. Now, the only people who know and comprehend the God fully is said that Aten or Akhenaten, together with his wife Nefertiti. The hymns to the Aten has been compared in imagery to Psalms 104. Bless the Lord, O my soul. Right. In fact, it is the same. And because of the destruction of the temple of Akhenaten, Ankh-Anten, we no longer have, but we have compared the 110 the Aten's hymns to Psalms 104 and 110, and they are nearly identical. So you can imagine that most of the information, which we call Psalms 150 chapters, comes from Egypt. Located just a few miles from the most famous Selab Temple. Selab Temple was built by Hapu, the famous architect of the Luxor Temple in Egypt, to celebrate Amenhotep the third. jubilee and resembles its Egyptian cousin. It has been brought back to life by an Italian archaeological expedition led by Michele Schiff Gorni, and it is the most agricultural site amongst these dates of the Egyptian period in Sudan. Sisebi instead was built by Akhenaten in the 14th century BC and was completely destroyed after his death. All right, at least they claimed that he died, as it was considered heretic. They did not want to deal with Aten. They wanted to deal with Amen, all right, the hidden God, not the shown God. This was also explained why there are few pieces remains. All around it, there were remains of an old square planned city. Now, Aten was the traditional name for the sun disk itself, and so the name of the gods is often translated as the Aten. For example, in the coffin text of the Middle Kingdom, the word Aten represents the sun disk, and in the story of Sinuhi, which is from the Middle Kingdom, Amenemhet the first was described as soaring in the sky, uniting with Aten, his creator. During the New Kingdom, the Aten was considered to be an aspect of the composition deity Ra, Amun, and Horus. All right. Ra represents the daytime sun, Amen represents the sun in the afterworld or set, and Horus, Heru, represents the sunrise, the peak. All right, the apex. Now, Akhenaten, Unten, proclaimed that the Aten, the visible sun itself, to be the sole deity, taking sun worshiping a stage further because of the naturalistic qualities of some of the artwork of the time. Some has suggested that his religion was based on the scientific observation that the sun's energy is the utmost source of all life, and it is. Right? A number of hymns to Akhenaten was composed during Akhenaten's reign, some apparently by the king himself or pharaoh himself. They just what is known as Nagu himself. They described the wonders of nature and held the sun as the absolute and universal Lord of all things. In practical, the hymns of the of Aten, recorded in the tomb of A and Visor, Akhenaten has been pharaoh after Tutankhamen, had become famous, as many commentaries has argued that it closely echoes Psalms 104, as we talked about, and also 110. Now, the thing is that perhaps, unsurprisingly, excavation of Akhenaten, which is Amara, all right? Now, remember Amara, all right? That was the name of his family, Amara. Akhenaten's family was Amara. Now, that's going to be important because in the movie, Creed and his wife have a baby, and they name her Amara, right? And in Vedic text, it means eternal or immortal or shooting star. In Arabic, it means sweetheart or dear, right? A Cretan goddess was named Amara, right? Once again, Cretans are the original Greeks. They're the Minoans. They were the Moors or the ancient Egyptians who lived in Greece before the Persians came in. All right, it also means princess of peace, the pomegranate flower, the meaning to love, Latin beloved, German eternal, Greek unfading, all right, Spanish imperishable, and West African Igbo grace. Now, the thing about the little girl is that she was born deaf like her mother. All right, so she was a mute, she couldn't talk. All right, so there was two senses that was taken from her hearing and her speech. Right, so that goes back to the 3/5 person. Now, the reason why we bring that up is because Apollo son Adonis called Rocky Unc throughout the whole movie. Now, the saying is that I'll be a monkey's uncle. So that symbolized the monkey, which is talking about the positive blood type, which is actually comes from the rhesus monkey. This is where they was putting up in here. All right. calling us an animal, gohim. All right, this is what they really talking about here. Now, Amara or Amara in ancient Egypt and Greece. Now, in Greece, the name for Amara or Amara was Heket and was the goddess of magic, witchcraft, the night, the moon, ghosts, and necromancy. She was the only child of the Titans, all right, Perseus and Ashtaria, from whom she received her power over heaven, earth, and the sea. Okay, so Heket becomes Heket, which is the ancient Egyptian word, and she was the Egyptian goddess of fertility and primarily associated with the later stages of pregnancy and childbirth. She often depicted as a woman with the head of a frog carrying knives in her hand. Her association with frogs may be an allusion to the implication or implied fertility and abundance of frog spawn tadpoles, right? And she also was there with, she was the consort of Khnum. But here we find the seed, all right, the sperm, as she represents the tadpoles. Notice that the frog tadpoles look identical to sperm, right? And this is why she was symbolic to the fraternity, fraternity of, you know, having birth. Birth, she represented birth and death. All right. So as we see, the universe send forth comets. It hit the planet Earth, just like the sperm hits the ovum, you know, or hit the egg, and then the one who gets in first blows up to the equivalent size. The tail breaks off and blows up to the equivalent size of the nucleus of the egg, and that is some of the key things. And it goes through what is called blastopause or mitosis, right? And once you get up to the number 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, who do we appreciate? Your physical body coming to existence. So semen is the root of the word seminary, seminar, and seminu. Seminar, breeding ground for the semenis of seed from semen, genitive semenis, seed, semen, meaning school for training priests. Wonder why the priests always molesting someone? Because they take after the name of the semen. First recorded 1580s, commonly used for any school, especially academy for young ladies, literally a breeding ground. Right? Even though they don't deal with the ladies much, as we find out. Right? These Catholic priests. Most religious terminology and symbology is rooted and stems from the seed of ancient fertility rites, the rites of passage, sex. All right, that's what it is. So what we find out that the Ayurveda teaches a physiology of the production of sperm based on the central idea that there are 70 central constitutes of the body. Right? You have the 7, which is the hatus, chyle, blood, flesh, fat, bone, marrow, and semen, produced through a cycle of successful internal cooking and transformations. Right? The ultimate distilling, the most concentrated, and hence the most precious is semen. Okay? So this is how Heket symbolizes this sperm. It's talking about sperm inside of the womb, going into the ovum, the egg, and life sparking into existence. All right. So it's semen remains in the body. It's the essence of vitality, and many writers spare no hyperbolic in their descriptions of the body glowing with energy of semen. Semen, what is a beautiful, sparkling word? When reflecting on it, one's mind is filled with a grand, great, majestic, beautiful, and powerful emotion, right? So let's look at the sperm as it becomes the brain and spinal cord, Right? In the Occult Anatomy of Man by Manly P. Hall, he says, in the skull is the switchboard which controls the activities of the body. Every function of the man below the neck is controlled by a center of consciousness in the brain. Proof of this is the fact that the injury at certain centers of the brain results in paralysis of various parts of the body. Medical science now knows that the spinal cord is an elongation of the brain, and some authorities even claim the cord to be capable of intelligence throughout its entire length. All right, 33 vertebrae. This cord is the flaming sword. Remember, Jedi, the Jedi sword, the Jid, the backbone of Osiris. All right, flaming sword, which is supposed to have stood at the gate of the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is in the skull, within which is a tree bearing 12 manners of fruit. Those are the 12 pericranial nerves. So this is you. This is you entering your new body, and this is you, and this is you in your new body. The brain and the spinal column. You get the Tao of Sexology, a book of infinite wisdom by Dr. Stephen Chang. He writes that medical science asserts that 1 drop of semen is manufactured out of 40 drops of blood. However, the Ayurveda states that the semen is elaborated out of 80 drops of blood. Therefore, if it takes 40 drops of blood to make 1 drop of semen, then it would take 400 drops of blood to make 40 drops of semen. According to Stephen Chang, writers on ejaculation in the Tao of Sexology, says the testicles produce sperms and hormones, and the prostate produces the nutrients, hormones, and energy. All right. Rich seminal fluid. The secretions produced in the prostate contains nutrients, hormones, and vital energy. These secretions constitute the semen, which is the substance that serves for the carrier of the sperm. When the person or the average man ejaculates, he loses more than 1 tablespoon of semen. According to the scientific research, the nutritional value of this amount of semen is equivalent or equal to that of 2 pieces of New York steak, 10 eggs, 6 oranges, and 2 lemons combined, and some say even 2 glasses of milk. And this includes protein, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, everything. Ejaculation is often called coming. The precise word for it should be going, because everything vital, energy, millions of life sperm, hormones, and nutrients go away. All right. So this is the primitive brain, aka the brain stem, known as the reptilian brain, the original serpent brain. Right? Each of the chakras located among the spinal medulla awakens to the Kundalini is ascending within the Nadi Shidra, right? Which 7 chakras are located along the spinal medulla. Now, when the Kundalini is still enclosed within the Malahara chakra, then these 7 chakras are just hanging down, right? However, when Diva Kundalini ascends through the Brahmanadi, then the marvelous petals of these chakras turn upwards to the Brahmara Hadarada. These marvelous gleamings with the incomparable sexual fire of Kundalini. Right, this is Samuel War. All right, and this is Kundalini Yoga, the mysteries of the fire. Right, and so we have Heket here, and you see that she has the head of a frog, and she's holding up to the nose of the Ba, and also there's a Ka, the Ban Ka, which symbolizes Adam and Eve, formed by Kanun, and the breath of life is instilled by Heket into the nose, living. Now, Creed is the Creed 2. Right, the trailer says Sylvester Stallone's Rocky franchise returns with Ivan Draco's son versus Black Panther's cousin. This is an interesting article. But check this out. All right. What we find is that Sylvester Stallone is the producer in his movie, and he claimed that this is going to be his last time. He's 71 years old, so it's going to be his last time making these movies. Right. And plus, in this movie, he turns the mantle over to Michael B. Jordan, known as Adonis Creed or Donnie. He turns it over to him by bumping the fist. And Rocky says, you the new age, you the new one. So this is now remember, Rocky, a fictional character, got a statue in Philadelphia, right, in which that used to be up. You was able to run up the steps just like Rocky and throw your hands up and you dun-dun-dun, 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 dun-dun-dun. All right, so dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun. All right, so
say that thing too when you be upset when people be like Rocky when they can say Ali.
hold on. Let's get to that because that's what I was getting at. And Queen already know what my mind is because we got a Negro out here singing. His name is Tank. No disrespect, Tank, but in the song, all right, what's the name of the song, Queen?
When we
Oh, come on, keep going.
it's called When We.
Right, come on. Right. Right, when we, right? Fuck, when we touch, you know what I'm saying? When we, and what he says about.
He said, don't use them hands to put up them hands and block me.
And block me.
And then he gonna say something about Rocky.
Uh-huh. Now, why would he mention a fictional character? Right. Right. Why would he mention a fictional character when Muhammad Ali is the greatest of all time?
Okay.
Who actually lived? All right. So this is the thing about these Rocky movies. You know what I'm saying? Here it is, 33 years later. They have turned the mantle back over to the real fighters, even though this is a fictional character too. But the real fighters, you know what I'm saying, who win these matches and who dominate the sport of boxing. All right, ever since Jack Johnson, we've been dominating boxing. All right, ever since Jack Johnson. All right. So, in this movie, he turns the mantle by bumping fists back to Adonis Creed. All right, the son of Apollo Creed. Now, in the Rocky franchise, Creed 2, starring Dolph Lundgren, Sylvester Stallone, Michael B. Jordan, and Florian Montigny, a professional boxer. All right. There would be a sequel to the Rocky franchise, which saw the last film Creed in 2015, right? And this one just came out this past Friday. It's supposed to came out Thanksgiving. All right. I guess in some places might have, but not here. But anyway, we saw it today. So that's why we have to do a metaphysical breakdown of this movie. All right. And this Ivan Drago, who was the Russian who Rocky Balboa beat up in Rocky 4, you know what I'm saying, after the death of Apollo Creed, the father of Adonis Creed, all right? And we find that Draco is the Italian form of the Latin Draco, meaning dragon. Also, Croatian, Serbian, and Soviet, it says derived from the Slavic element DRAGO, meaning precious. It is also a short form of the other Slavic words meaning beginning with that element. Now, you have the Draco, the dragon, all right, which is in the sky, the early evening northwestern sky, all right, and is part of the Large Dipper, or the Big Dipper, and the Little Dipper. All right, at one time, Thuban was the central sun or star. Now it's Polaris, which is the North Star. So Thuban was once the North Star, which was part of the Draco's tail. Now in the Little Dipper, it is the North Star Polaris. Right? You have Ursa Minor and Ursa Major. Now the north to overhead evening, you have, like I said, the Big Dipper, you have Draco, and you have the Little Dipper. All right. So as you see here, now metaphysically, we're talking about the reptilian brain stem in the head. Now, if you notice, the pineal gland area on up into the, which is all reptilian portion of the brain that oversees from the stem, from the brain stem. All right, it looks like a dinosaur. Okay, and according to The Biggest Secrets by David Icke, he speaks of how these draconians slash reptilians can overshadow you by attaching themselves from the astral plane of the first and second lower astral plane and attaching themselves to the auric field, and that Europeans, Albigons, so-called white folks, are the most easy to possess. Okay, so what we find is that Michael Barkul, professor of political science at Syracuse University, points that the idea of a reptilian conspiracy originated in the fiction of Conan the Barbarian creator Robert E. Howard. The first appearance of Serpent Man in literature was in Howard's story, The Shadow Kingdom. Now, this wasn't the first. That's not actually true, but we keep going with it. Published in Weird Tales in August 1929. This story draws on the theosophical idea of the lost worlds of Atlantis and Lemuria, particularly Helena Blavatsky, the secret doctrine, which is referred to as dragonmen who once had a mighty civilization on the Lemurian continent. Now, the Lemurian continent is the Hawaiian Islands. Right, when all the Hawaiian Islands and the different islands were once together before the great volcanic activity took place, you know, and now only thing they have are the remnants of the mountain, which is now, you know, what is called that, but that was once Lemuria, right? And so how is serpent men would describe a humanoids with human bodies but snake heads, able to imitate imitate real humans at will, who lives in hiding in underground passages, using his shape-changing and mind control ability to infiltrate humanity. Now, Clark Ashton Smith used the Howard Serpent men in his story, as well as themes from H.P. Lovecraft, and Howard and Lovecraft together laid the basis for the Cthulhu mythology. Now, in the 1940s, a non-fiction writer, Maurice Doreal, wrote a pamphlet entitled Mysteries of the Gobi, and describes a serpent race in bodies but men, but heads like a great snake, an ability to take true human form. This serpent, these creatures was appeared in Doreal's poems, the Emerald Tablets, in which that he refers to the Emerald Tablets written by Thoth or Tahuti in Atlantean Priest King, right? And Barkun asserts that in all likeliness, Doreal's idea came from the Shadow Kingdom, that in turn the Emerald Tablets formed the basis for Inky's book, for David Icke's book, excuse me, Children of the Matrix, right? But this is the real reptilian brain. All right. Even President Barack Obama was on The View, and he was being interviewed by Barbara Walters and Whoopi Goldberg, and he made mention of the fact that the reptilian portion of the brain is the brain in which that has the ability in order to see differences. Right. So the more linear that you are, the more reptilian you are like. Right, the more holistic you are, the less reptilian you like, and more you use the neocortex and the frontal lobes. All right, so here you have in the brain the same area in which that is known as the reptilian portion of the brain is also known as Ptah, the father of all. All right, and so Ptah symbolizes not just the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the hypothalamus gland, the thalamus gland, on down into the pons, the medulla, down into the spinal cord, etc., etc. Right. So we know that based on Thubin that we spoke about, it says one's consciousness can shift towards the front of that one's head, and this induces an OOBE, out of body experience. Right. Remember, Thubin used to be the pole star, right, before Polaris, right? And then, of course, you see the pineal gland, which is the door to lucid dreaming, shifts to the back of the head, right, which symbolizes Sirius, the eye star Isis, right? And then Orion, which is Sirius, which also means Orion means heaven, is a shaman, right, which symbolizes also the cerebral cortex. And of course, Orion symbolizes the hip, hypnagogic state of trance, which is Osiris, right? And then you see the reptilian brainstem, which is called the reticular activating formation, right? Which is the southern part, all right? So all of this is talking about these sciences, and this is the real meaning behind the movie Creed, and like we said here, versus DRAGO, all right? And Draco, as we said here, Thubin is Draco, the constellation Draco. So you must go through Draco, Thubin, in which that you want to have out-of-body experience, right? And that is through a resurrected or ascension of the reptilian / serpentine fire energy, which is called Kundalini. All right, so yo, that's it for us, y'all. But as we always say, continue now for days, weeks, months, and years to come. We're moving towards our most cherished goals of health, wealth, knowledge of ourselves, protection, security, enlightenment, protection, abundance, joy, happiness, and all good things. Right? Be able to help and enjoy. And matter of fact, moving closer towards the oneness. Matter of fact, yeah. Well, hold up. Let's go back. All right. Queen adding a lot up in here, so I'm trying to keep up with her. All right. So continue now for days, weeks, months, and years to come. We move towards our most cherished goal of health, wealth, knowledge of ourselves. Every action, enterprise, and endeavor which we wish to be involved is bringing increasing rewards. All right. Better economic conditions and full contentment. We have so much happiness, joy, an abundance in our life that we're able to help and share with those who are sincere along the way, and we're moving closer toward the oneness of God and Goddess and the full release of our higher inner selves. Ashe. Brother D. Neal. Word. Thanks for that super chat. Anybody else that can do the super chat? Come on. I got 5 on it.
Got it.
All right.
Thank you, y'all.
All right. Peace, y'all. We love y'all. We out.